Norse riddle stones, unread symbols of Vikings, beneath the windswept landscapes of Scandinavia, where fjords carve deep into the land, forests stretch to the horizon, and ancient stone monuments stand sentinel against the passage of time, lies a hidden legacy of the Viking Age, the Norse riddle stones. These weathered slabs of rock, etched with runic inscriptions, and often adorned with intricate carvings of animals, warriors, and mythic figures, are more than mere archaeological curiosities. They are silent storytellers, holding within their runes and imagery the secrets of a civilization that once dominated the North Sea and beyond. Yet, for all their enduring presence, many of these riddle stones remain unread, their messages obscured by the passage of time, the erosion of language, and the mysteries of a culture that left few written records beyond these very stones. To explore Norse riddle stones is to embark on a journey into the heart of Viking identity, a journey that reveals not just the minds of the people who created them, but the complex web of beliefs, values, and traditions that defined the Viking Age. It is a journey into the unknown, where each unread rune is a question, each carving a clue, and each stone a window into a world that has long since faded, yet continues to captivate and intrigue. The Viking Age, roughly spanning from the late 8th century to the early 11th century CE, was a period of profound change and expansion for the Norse people. Hailing from the lands we now know as Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, the Vikings were skilled seafarers, warriors, traders, and settlers who ventured far beyond their homelands, sailing to the British Isles, Iceland, Greenland, North America, and even as far east as the Byzantine Empire. Their influence was felt across continents, shaping the cultures of the lands they raided, traded with, and settled. Yet, despite their reputation as fierce warriors, a reputation often exaggerated by contemporary chroniclers and later mythologizers, the Vikings were a deeply cultural people, with a rich oral tradition, a complex pantheon of gods and goddesses, and a sophisticated system of writing. The runic alphabet. Runes were more than just a means of communication for the Norse. They were sacred symbols, believed to hold magical power and to connect the mortal world with the divine. It is this sacred nature of runes that makes the riddle stones so significant. They are not just inscriptions, but offerings, declarations, and puzzles, crafted with intention and meaning that has often eluded modern scholars. Norse riddle stones, as the name suggests, are stone monuments inscribed with runic riddles, short, cryptic verses that pose a question or a puzzle, inviting the reader or listener to decipher their meaning. Unlike other runic inscriptions, which often record names, dates, or simple messages of commemoration, riddle stones are designed to be enigmatic, to challenge the viewer, and to reveal their secrets only to those who possess the knowledge, wisdom, or insight to solve them. These riddles were not mere entertainment. They were a form of intellectual and spiritual exercise, reflecting the Norse value of wit, cleverness, and deep thinking. In a culture that prized oral tradition, riddles played an important role in social gatherings, religious ceremonies, and even in the education of young people, teaching them to think critically and to see the world in new and unexpected ways. The riddle stones, then, are physical manifestations of this tradition, permanent records of the Norse love of wordplay, mystery, and the pursuit of knowledge. But what makes these riddle stones unread? The answer lies in a combination of factors, each contributing to the mystery that surrounds them. First and foremost is the nature of runic writing itself. The runic alphabet, known as the Futhark, evolved over time, with different variants used in different regions and periods. The earliest runic inscriptions from the Proto-Norse period, around the 2nd to 8th centuries CE, use the Elder Futhark, a 24-character alphabet that was later replaced by the Younger Futhark, a simplified 16-character version used during the Viking Age. Many riddle stones use the Younger Futhark, but even this alphabet is not fully understood. Runes were often carved in a stylized manner, with letters merged or modified, making them difficult to transcribe. Furthermore, the Norse language itself has evolved dramatically over the centuries, with Old Norse, the language of the Vikings, being a distant ancestor of modern Scandinavian languages. Many words and phrases used in the riddles have lost their meaning, or have been altered beyond recognition, making translation a painstaking and often uncertain process. Adding to the difficulty is the fact that many riddle stones are incomplete or damaged. Weathering, erosion, vandalism, and even natural disasters have taken their toll on these ancient monuments, with many runes worn away or broken. Some stones have been moved from their original locations, disrupting the context in which they were created and making it harder to interpret their meaning. Others have been fragmented, with pieces lost or destroyed, leaving only partial inscriptions that tease scholars with glimpses of a larger puzzle. Even when a riddle stone is well preserved, the ambiguity of the riddles themselves presents a challenge. Norse riddles are often metaphorical, using imagery drawn from nature, mythology, and everyday life to obscure their true meaning. A riddle might describe a common object in a cryptic way, using symbols and metaphors that would have been familiar to a Viking, but that are alien to modern readers. For example, a riddle might refer to a creature that has no legs, yet runs across the field, a description that could refer to a river, the wind, or even a plow-awl, of which would have been common in the Viking world, but which require knowledge of the Norse context to decipher. Despite these challenges, scholars have made significant progress in studying Norse riddle stones, uncovering their origins, their purpose, and even some of their meanings. The first step in understanding these stones is to place them in their historical and cultural context. Most Norse riddle stones date from the Viking Age, between the 8th and 11th centuries CE. Though some may be older or younger, they are found primarily in Scandinavia, with the highest concentration in Sweden, particularly in the regions of Uppland and Södermanland, where runic inscriptions are most abundant. However, riddle stones have also been found in other parts of the Norse world, including Norway, Denmark, and even in areas settled by the Vikings, such as the British Isles and Iceland. This distribution suggests that the tradition of carving riddle stones was widespread among the Norse, and that it played an important role in their shared culture. The physical characteristics of riddle stones vary widely. Some are small, flat slabs of stone, barely larger than a hand, while others are tall, standing stones, menhirs, that rise several meters into the air. Most are made of local stone, such as granite, sandstone, or limestone, which was readily available and durable enough to withstand the elements. The runic inscriptions are typically carved into the surface of the stone, often in a single line or in a spiral pattern, and are sometimes accompanied by carvings of animals, such as wolves, ravens, or serpents, mythic figures, such as Odin, Thor, or Loki, or scenes from Norse mythology. These carvings are not mere decorations. They are often closely linked to the riddle itself, providing clues to its meaning. For example, a stone carved with a raven might hint at a riddle related to Odin, who was often accompanied by two ravens, Hugin and Munin, thought and memory. A stone carved with a hammer might refer to Thor, the god of thunder, or to a blacksmith's tool, which could be the subject of the riddle. One of the most famous Norse riddle stones is the Rurk stone, located in Rurk, Sweden, in the province of Östergötland. Carved in the late 8th or early 9th century CE, the Rurk stone is one of the longest and most complex runic inscriptions ever discovered, containing over 700 runes arranged in a spiral pattern. While not strictly a riddle stone in the traditional sense, it contains several cryptic passages and riddles that have puzzled scholars for centuries. The stone begins with a dedication to dead sun, but quickly shifts to a series of enigmatic verses that reference Norse mythology, historical events, and possibly even astrological observations. One of the most famous passages reads, "I, Varin, carved these runes in memory of my son, Vamod. May he rest in peace. Now I shall tell you a riddle. What is that which stands on 4 legs, has a head, and cannot walk? It is a chair." This simple riddle is followed by more complex ones, including references to a creature that flies without wings, swims without fins, and walks without feet, the wind, and a thing that is born without a mother, dies without a father, and is never seen alive, smoke. The Rurk stone is a testament to the Norse love of riddles and to their skill in using language to create mystery and intrigue. Another notable riddle stone is the Västra Strör church stone, located in Västra Strör, Sweden. This stone, dating from the 10th century CE, is a small, flat slab of sandstone carved with a runic riddle and a depiction of a wolf. The riddle reads, "What is that which eats iron and drinks blood, yet has no teeth or throat? It is rust." The wolf carving is likely a reference to Fenrir, the giant wolf of Norse mythology, who was prophesied to kill Odin during Ragnarök, the end of the world. The connection between the riddle and the wolf is not immediately clear, but it may be a metaphor for the destructive power of rust, which, like Fenrir, consumes and destroys without mercy. This stone illustrates how riddle stones often combined practical knowledge, such as the nature of rust, with mythic imagery, reflecting the Norse belief that the natural world and the divine world were deeply interconnected. The purpose of Norse riddle stones is another area of ongoing research. While some stones clearly serve a commemorative purpose, inscribed with the names of the dead and messages of remembrance, others seem to have a more ritual or spiritual function. Riddles were often associated with magic and divination in Norse culture, and it is possible that some riddle stones were used in religious ceremonies as a way to communicate with the gods or to seek guidance. For example, a riddle might be carved into a stone as an offering to Odin, the god of wisdom, who was said to have sacrificed one of his eyes in exchange for knowledge of the runes. By solving the riddle, the viewer would demonstrate their wisdom and devotion, earning the favor of the gods. Other riddle stones may have been used as markers, indicating sacred sites, burial grounds, or boundaries. Still others may have been educational tools, designed to teach young people about language, nature, and mythology through the challenge of solving riddles. The role of riddles in Norse society extends beyond the riddle stones themselves. Riddles were a common feature of Norse literature, most notably in the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda, two of the most important sources of Norse mythology and literature. The Poetic Edda, a collection of Old Norse poems composed during the Viking Age, contains several riddles, including the Havamal, a poem attributed to Odin that includes a series of riddles and wise sayings. One of the most famous riddles from the Havamal is, "What is that which has a head but no hair, a bed but no sleep, a mouth but no voice?" The answer is a river. Its head is the source, its bed is the riverbed, and its mouth is the estuary. This riddle, like many Norse riddles, uses everyday imagery to create a puzzle that requires observation and critical thinking. The Prose Edda, written by the Icelandic scholar Snorri Sturluson in the 13th century CE, also contains references to riddles, describing how the god Odin would often challenge mortals and other gods with riddles as a test of their wisdom. The connection between the riddles in the Eddas and the riddle stones is clear. Both reflect the Norse value of wit and wisdom, and both use language as a tool to explore the mysteries of the world. However, there is an important difference between the two. The Eddas were written down long after the Viking Age, while the riddle stones are contemporary artifacts carved by the Vikings themselves. This makes the riddle stones a unique and valuable source of information about Viking culture, as they provide a direct link to the thoughts, beliefs, and daily lives of the people who created them. Unlike the Eddas, which were edited and modified over time, the riddle stones are raw unfiltered expressions of Viking identity, offering a glimpse into a world that has been lost to history. One of the most intriguing aspects of Norse riddle stones is their ambiguity. Many of the riddles are open to multiple interpretations, and scholars often disagree on their meaning. This ambiguity is not accidental. It is a deliberate feature of Norse riddles, designed to encourage thought and debate. For the Vikings, a riddle was not just a question to be answered, but a way to explore the complexity of the world, to challenge assumptions, and to celebrate the beauty of language. A good riddle was one that could be interpreted in multiple ways, each revealing a different aspect of the truth. This ambiguity also reflects the Norse belief in the duality of the world, the idea that reality is not fixed, but is shaped by perception and interpretation. For example, a riddle might describe an object in a way that makes it seem both familiar and strange, inviting the viewer to see it from a new perspective. The study of Norse riddle stones is also complicated by the fact that many of them were created during a period of significant cultural change. The Viking Age was a time when the Norse were increasingly coming into contact with other cultures, particularly Christianity. By the end of the Viking Age, many Norse people had converted to Christianity, and the old pagan beliefs and traditions were being replaced by Christian ones. This religious shift is reflected in some riddle stones, which combine pagan imagery with Christian symbols. For example, a stone might be carved with runic riddles alongside a cross, or with depictions of both Norse gods and Christian saints. These hybrid stones are a testament to the complex process of cultural assimilation that took place during this period, and they raise important questions about how the Norse reconciled their old beliefs with their new faith. Did the riddles on these stones reflect a continuation of pagan traditions, or were they adapted to fit Christian values? Were they a way to preserve the old ways in a changing world, or a way to bridge the gap between the two cultures? To answer these questions, scholars must carefully analyze the content and context of each riddle stone. For example, a stone carved with a cross and a riddle about a light that shines in the darkness, never fading, might be a Christian reference to Jesus Christ, while a stone carved with a raven and a riddle about a messenger that flies across the sky, bringing news from far away, might be a pagan reference to Odin's ravens. However, some stones are more ambiguous, with symbols and riddles that could be interpreted in both pagan and Christian terms. This ambiguity suggests that the Norse did not simply abandon their old beliefs when they converted to Christianity, but rather merged them with the new faith, creating a unique syncretic culture. The riddle stones, in this sense, are not just records of a bygone era, but also documents of a period of cultural transition, reflecting the resilience and adaptability of the Norse people. Another important aspect of Norse riddle stones is their connection to the natural world. The Norse were a people deeply connected to nature, relying on the land and the sea for their survival. This connection is reflected in their riddles, which often draw imagery from nature, rivers, trees, animals, wind, rain, and snow. For example, a riddle might describe a tree that grows without roots, blooms without flowers, and bears no fruit, a mushroom, or a creature that lives in the water, has no scales, and cannot swim, an iceberg. These riddles not only demonstrate the Norse knowledge of the natural world, but also their reverence for it. The Norse believed that nature was inhabited by spirits and gods, and that all things, whether animate or inanimate, had a soul. By creating riddles about natural phenomena, the Norse were not just testing each other's wit, but also expressing their respect for the natural world and their understanding of its mysteries. The use of animal imagery in riddle stones is particularly significant. Animals played an important role in Norse mythology and culture, with many animals associated with specific gods or goddesses. For example, ravens were associated with Odin, wolves with Fenrir and Odin, eagles with Thor, and serpents with Loki. These associations are often reflected in the riddles, which use animal imagery to convey deeper meanings. For example, a riddle about a wolf might be a reference to Fenrir, symbolizing chaos and destruction, while a riddle about a raven might be a reference to Odin, symbolizing wisdom and knowledge. The carvings of animals on riddle stones often reinforce these associations, providing visual clues to the meaning of the riddles. For example, a stone carved with a raven and a riddle about a bird that flies without wings might be a reference to Odin's ravens, which were said to fly across the world and bring back news to the god. The study of Norse riddle stones also requires an understanding of runic magic. The Norse believed that runes were not just a writing system, but also a form of magic. Each rune had its own meaning and power, and carving runes into stone was believed to invoke that power. Riddles, with their cryptic language and symbolic imagery, were often associated with runic magic, as they were seen as a way to channel the power of the runes and to communicate with the divine. For example, a riddle stone might be carved with runes that spell out a magical incantation hidden within the riddle itself. Solving the riddle would reveal the incantation, allowing the viewer to harness its power. This connection between riddles and magic adds another layer of complexity to the riddle stones, as they are not just linguistic puzzles, but also magical artifacts. Despite the challenges of interpreting Norse riddle stones, scholars have made significant progress in recent years, thanks to advances in archaeological techniques, linguistic analysis, and the discovery of new stones. For example, the use of 3D scanning technology has allowed scholars to examine runic inscriptions in unprecedented detail, revealing runes that were previously invisible due to erosion or damage. Linguistic studies have also helped to clarify the meaning of Old Norse words and phrases, making it easier to translate the riddles. Additionally, the discovery of new riddle stones has provided more context for understanding the tradition. allowing scholars to identify patterns and similarities between different stones. One of the most exciting recent discoveries is the Örgeby stone, found in Örgeby, Sweden, in 2019. This stone, dating from the 10th century CE, is a small, rounded stone carved with a runic riddle and a depiction of a serpent. The riddle reads, "What is that which has a tail but no body, a head but no face, and travels across the earth without feet?" The answer, scholars believe, is a comet, a celestial phenomenon that would have been familiar to the Norse, who were skilled astronomers. The serpent carving is likely a reference to Jörmungandr, the world serpent of Norse mythology, which was said to encircle the earth and bite its own tail. This stone is significant because it connects a riddle about a celestial phenomenon to a mythic figure, highlighting the Norse belief in the interconnectedness of the natural world and the divine. Another recent discovery is the Högby stone, located in Högby, Sweden, which was uncovered during archaeological excavations in 2021. This stone, dating from the 9th century CE, is a tall, standing stone carved with a runic riddle and a depiction of a warrior. The riddle reads, "What is that which is born in the morning, dies in the evening, and is reborn the next day?" It is the sun. The warrior carving is likely a reference to the god Thor, who was often depicted as a warrior and who was associated with the sun. This stone is notable because it uses a simple, everyday riddle to convey a deeper religious meaning, reflecting the Norse reverence for the sun as a source of life and light. These recent discoveries highlight the ongoing importance of Norse riddle stones as a source of information about Viking culture. They also demonstrate that there is still much to learn about these mysterious monuments. Despite centuries of study, many riddle stones remain unread, their messages hidden behind layers of time and ambiguity. Some stones have only partial inscriptions, making it impossible to solve their riddles. Others have runes that are so worn or stylized that they cannot be accurately transcribed. Even for stones that are well preserved, the meaning of the riddles is often debated, with scholars offering different interpretations based on their knowledge of Old Norse language, mythology, and culture. One of the most challenging aspects of studying Norse riddle stones is the lack of context. Unlike other archaeological artifacts, which are often found in Chinese letter settlements, or other contexts that provide clues about their purpose, many riddle stones are found in isolation, with no accompanying artifacts or records. This makes it difficult to determine who carved the stone, why it was carved, and who it was intended for. For example, a riddle stone found in a field might have been a marker for a sacred site, a memorial for a dead relative, or a tool for teaching young people. Without additional context, it is impossible to know for sure. This lack of context also makes it difficult to date the stones accurately, as many have no clear chronological markers. Despite these challenges, the study of Norse riddle stones is a vital part of understanding the Viking Age. These stones provide a unique window into the minds of the Norse people, revealing their wit, their wisdom, their beliefs, and their connection to the natural world. They are a testament to the power of language and symbolism, and to the enduring legacy of a civilization that has fascinated people for centuries. Each riddle stone is a puzzle waiting to be solved, a mystery waiting to be uncovered, and a reminder that even in the modern age, there are still secrets from the past that elude us. To fully appreciate the significance of Norse riddle stones, it is important to consider them within the broader context of Norse culture and society. The Vikings were a people who valued storytelling, wit, and wisdom, and riddles were an integral part of their cultural identity. Riddles were used in social gatherings, religious ceremonies, and even in political negotiations, serving as a way to demonstrate intelligence, creativity, and power. The riddle stones, then, are not just artifacts. They are expressions of the Norse way of life, reflecting their values, their beliefs, and their understanding of the world. The Norse belief in the sacredness of runes also plays a crucial role in understanding the riddle stones. Runes were not just a writing system, they were a form of magic, believed to have the power to influence the world around them. Carving runes into stone was a sacred act, requiring skill, knowledge, and reverence. The riddles inscribed on the stones were often part of this sacred practice, designed to invoke the power of the runes and to communicate with the gods. For the Norse, solving a riddle was not just an intellectual exercise. It was a spiritual one, a way to connect with the divine and to gain wisdom and insight. Another important aspect of Norse riddle stones is their role in preserving the Norse language and oral tradition. The Viking Age was a period of oral culture, with most stories, poems, and riddles passed down from generation to generation through word of mouth. The riddle stones are some of the few written records of this oral tradition, providing a snapshot of the language and literature of the time. By studying these stones, scholars can learn about the Old Norse language, its grammar, its vocabulary, and its evolution over time. They can also gain insight into the types of stories and riddles that were popular among the Norse, and how these stories reflected their culture and values. The riddle stones also offer a glimpse into the daily life of the Norse people. Many of the riddles describe everyday objects and activities, such as farming, fishing, blacksmithing, and weaving. For example, a riddle might describe a tool that cuts without a blade, sews without a thread, and builds without hands. A plow, or a container that holds water, has no bottom and cannot be filled. A sieve. These riddles provide valuable information about the tools, technologies, and daily routines of the Norse, helping scholars to reconstruct what life was like during the Viking Age. They also demonstrate the Norse ability to find beauty and mystery in the ordinary, to see the extraordinary in the mundane. In addition to their historical and cultural significance, Norse riddle stones also have a profound artistic value. The runic inscriptions are often beautifully carved, with intricate details and stylized letters that reflect the skill and craftsmanship of the carvers. The accompanying carvings of animals, mythic figures, and scenes from mythology are also works of art, showcasing the Norse talent for sculpture and design. These carvings are not just decorative, they are integral to the meaning of the stones, providing visual clues to the riddles and reinforcing their cultural and spiritual significance. The artistry of the riddle stones is a testament to the creativity and skill of the Norse people, and to their appreciation for beauty and craftsmanship. Despite their importance, Norse riddle stones remain relatively unknown to the general public. Most people are familiar with the Vikings as warriors and seafarers, but few are aware of their rich cultural heritage, including their love of riddles and their skill in runic writing. This lack of awareness is partly due to the fact that many riddle stones are located in remote areas of Scandinavia, far from major tourist attractions. It is also due to the fact that the riddles themselves are difficult to understand, requiring knowledge of Old Norse language and mythology. However, as more people become interested in Viking culture, and as scholars continue to make progress in interpreting the riddle stones, these mysterious monuments are gaining greater recognition. The future of Norse riddle stone research is bright, with new technologies and methodologies helping to unlock their secrets. 3D scanning, laser imaging, and other advanced techniques are allowing scholars to examine the stones in unprecedented detail, revealing runes and carvings that were previously invisible. Linguistic studies are continuing to clarify the meaning of Old Norse words and phrases, making it easier to translate the riddles, and new archaeological discoveries are providing more context for understanding the stones, allowing scholars to piece together the puzzle of their purpose and meaning. One of the most exciting developments in riddle stone research is the use of artificial intelligence, AI, to help translate and interpret the runic inscriptions. AI algorithms can analyze large amounts of data, including Old Norse texts, runic inscriptions, and mythological references, to identify patterns and make predictions about the meaning of the riddles. While AI is not a replacement for human scholars, it can be a valuable tool, helping to speed up the translation process and to identify connections between different riddle stones. This technology has the potential to revolutionize the study of Norse riddle stones, making it possible to solve previously unsolvable riddles and to gain a deeper understanding of Viking culture. Another important area of future research is the study of the social and cultural context of riddle stones. Scholars are increasingly interested in understanding who carved the stones, who they were intended for, and how they were used in Norse society. By examining the location of the stones, their style, and their content, scholars can gain insight into the social structure of the Norse, their religious practices, and their cultural values. For example, A riddle stone found in a wealthy burial mound might have been carved by a member of the elite, while a stone found in a village might have been created by a common person. This type of research can help to paint a more nuanced picture of Viking society, showing that it was not just a culture of warriors, but a complex, diverse society with a rich cultural heritage. In conclusion, Norse riddle stones are more than just ancient monuments. They are unread symbols of the Vikings, holding within their runes and carvings the secrets of a civilization that has long since passed. They are a testament to the wit, wisdom, and creativity of the Norse people, and to their deep connection to the natural world and the divine. Despite the challenges of interpreting them, these stones continue to captivate scholars and enthusiasts alike, offering a glimpse into a world that is both alien and familiar. As we continue to study and explore these mysterious monuments, we are not just uncovering the secrets of the past. We are also gaining a deeper understanding of ourselves and of the universal human desire to create, to question, and to seek meaning in the world around us. The Norse riddle stones are a reminder that even in the darkest corners of history, there are stories waiting to be told and mysteries waiting to be solved. They are unread, but they are not silent, and their voices continue to echo through the ages, inviting us to listen, to learn, and to wonder. To delve deeper into the world of Norse riddle stones, it is essential to examine specific examples in detail, exploring their runic inscriptions, carvings, and possible meanings. One such example is the Sigtuna stone, located in Sigtuna, Sweden, a medieval town that was once an important center of trade and culture during the Viking Age. The Sigtuna stone, dating from the 10th century CE, is a small, flat stone carved with a runic riddle and a depiction of a ship. The runic inscription reads, "What is that which sails on the sea, has no sails, no oars, and no crew? It is a wave." The ship carving is a common motif in Norse art, symbolizing the Vikings' love of seafaring and their connection to the sea. The riddle itself is a clever play on words, using the image of a ship to describe a wave, which sails on the sea without the usual trappings of a ship. This stone is a perfect example of how Norse riddles combined everyday imagery with clever wordplay, reflecting the Vikings' intimate knowledge of the sea and their ability to see the world in unexpected ways. Another example is the Uppsala stone, located in Uppsala, Sweden, a city that was once the religious center of the Norse world, home to the Temple of Uppsala, dedicated to Odin, Thor, and Frey. The Uppsala stone, dating from the 9th century CE, is a tall, standing stone carved with a runic riddle and a depiction of a god, likely Odin. The riddle reads, "What is that which has a beard but no face, a cloak but no body, and walks without feet?" It is a tree. The god carving is depicted with a long beard and a cloak, holding a spear, which is a common attribute of Odin. The riddle uses the image of a god to describe a tree, with its branches as a cloak and its roots as feet. This stone is significant because it connects a natural object, a tree, to a divine figure, Odin, reflecting the Norse belief that the natural world and the divine world are deeply interconnected. It also demonstrates the Norse love of metaphor, using the image of a god to make the riddle more challenging and more meaningful. The Gotland Riddle stones, found on the island of Gotland, Sweden, are another important group of riddle stones. Gotland was a major center of trade during the Viking Age, and its stones reflect the island's wealth and cultural diversity. One of the most famous Gotland riddle stones is the Labro stone, dating from the 10th century CE. This stone is carved with a runic riddle and a depiction of a dragon. The riddle reads, "What is that which breathes fire, has scales but no flesh, and flies without wings?" It is a volcano. The dragon carving is a common motif in Norse mythology, often associated with chaos and destruction. The riddle uses the image of a dragon to describe a volcano, which breathes fire and has a scaly appearance from the lava and rock. This stone is notable because it describes a natural phenomenon that would have been rare in Scandinavia, suggesting that the Norse had contact with other cultures, such as those in the Mediterranean, where volcanoes are more common. It also reflects the Norse fascination with powerful natural forces and their ability to create metaphors that capture the essence of these forces. The Erland Riddle stones, located on the island of Erland, Sweden, are also worth examining. Erland is home to numerous runic inscriptions, including several riddle stones. One of the most interesting is the Borgholm stone, dating from the 11th century CE. This stone is carved with a runic riddle and a depiction of a horse. The riddle reads, "What is that which has 4 legs, a tail, and no horns, yet is not a cow?" It is a horse. While this riddle may seem simple by modern standards, it reflects the Norse love of wordplay and their focus on everyday objects. The horse carving is a common motif in Norse art, as horses were essential to the Norse way of life, used for transportation, farming, and warfare. The riddle is a playful reminder of the importance of horses in Norse society, and it demonstrates how the Norse used riddles to celebrate the ordinary aspects of life. In addition to these specific examples, it is important to consider the broader patterns and themes that emerge from the study of Norse riddle stones. One common theme is the use of nature as a source of imagery. As mentioned earlier, many riddles describe natural phenomena such as rivers, trees, wind, and waves, reflecting the Norse connection to the natural world. Another common theme is the use of mythic imagery, with riddles often referencing Norse gods, goddesses, and mythic creatures. This reflects the Norse belief in the divine and their understanding of the world as a place where the mortal and the divine coexist. A third common theme is the use of everyday objects and activities, such as plows, sieves, and ships, reflecting the Norse focus on practical knowledge and their ability to find beauty and mystery in the ordinary. Another important pattern is the variation in the complexity of the riddles. Some riddles are simple and straightforward, designed to be solved by children or by people with little education. Others are more complex, requiring a deep knowledge of Norse mythology, language, and culture to solve. This variation suggests that riddle stones were intended for a wide audience, from young children to educated scholars, and that they played a role in all aspects of Norse society. It also suggests that the Norse valued both simple wit and deep wisdom, and that they saw riddles as a way to engage people of all ages and backgrounds. Study of Norse riddle stones also raises important questions about the role of women in Viking society. While most runic inscriptions are attributed to men, there is evidence that women also carved runes and created riddle stones. For example, the Kellinge stone, located on Gotland, Sweden, is inscribed with a runic riddle that is believed to have been carved by a woman. The riddle reads, "What is that which a woman carries in her hand, uses every day, and never loses?" It is a distaff. A distaff is a tool used in weaving, a task that was primarily performed by women in Norse society. This riddle not only reflects the role of women in everyday life, but also suggests that women were active participants in the creation of runic inscriptions and riddles. This is an important reminder that Viking society was not just a male-dominated culture, but one in which women played an important role in cultural and artistic life. Another question raised by the study of Norse riddle stones is the extent to which the riddles were influenced by other cultures. The Vikings were skilled traders and travelers, and they came into contact with many different cultures, including the Celts, the Anglo-Saxons, and the Byzantines. It is likely that the Norse riddle tradition was influenced by these cultures, and that some riddles were adapted from other traditions. For example, the riddle about a creature that has no legs, yet runs across the field, a river, is similar to riddles found in Celtic and Anglo-Saxon literature. This suggests that the Norse were not isolated from other cultures, but rather borrowed and adapted ideas from them, creating a unique and diverse riddle tradition. Despite the influence of other cultures, the Norse riddle tradition remains distinct, reflecting the unique values and beliefs of the Norse people. Unlike Celtic riddles, which often focus on the supernatural and the otherworld, Norse riddles are more grounded in the natural world and everyday life. Unlike Anglo-Saxon riddles, which often have a moral or religious message, Norse riddles are more playful and intellectual, focusing on wit and wordplay. This distinctiveness is a testament to the creativity and originality of the Norse people, and to their ability to create a cultural tradition that is both unique and universal. The enduring appeal of Norse riddle stones lies in their mystery and their ability to connect us to the past. These stones are not just ancient artifacts. They are a bridge between the modern world and the Viking Age, allowing us to glimpse the thoughts, beliefs, and daily lives of a people who lived over 1,000 years ago. They remind us that the Vikings were more than just warriors. They were a people with a rich cultural heritage, a love of language, and a deep appreciation for the beauty and mystery of the world. They also remind us that the human desire to create, to question, and to seek meaning is timeless, and that even in the modern age, we are still drawn to the same puzzles and mysteries that captivated the Norse. In the end, Norse riddle stones are more than just unread symbols of the Vikings. They are a testament to the power of language, the beauty of mystery, and the enduring legacy of a civilization that has fascinated people for centuries. As we continue to study and explore these stones, we are not just uncovering the secrets of the past. We are also celebrating the creativity and wisdom of the Norse people, and ensuring that their stories and riddles continue to be told for generations to come. The riddle stones may be unread, but they are not forgotten, and their voices will continue to echo through the ages, inviting us to listen, to learn, and to wonder, to further explore the depth and complexity of Norse riddle stones. It is necessary to examine the linguistic structure of the riddles themselves. Old Norse, the language of the Vikings, is a Germanic language with a rich vocabulary and complex grammar, and the riddles often take advantage of this complexity to create wordplay and ambiguity. For example, many riddles use homophones, words that sound the same but have different meanings, or double entendres to obscure their meaning. A riddle might use a word that has both a literal and a metaphorical meaning, requiring the reader to consider both possibilities to solve the puzzle. This linguistic complexity is one of the reasons why the riddles are so difficult to translate and interpret, as modern readers often lack the knowledge of Old Norse vocabulary and grammar needed to appreciate the wordplay. Another linguistic feature of Norse riddles is their use of alliteration, a common technique in Old Norse poetry. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words, and it was used extensively in Norse poetry to create rhythm and emphasis. Many riddle stones use alliteration to make the riddles more memorable and to reinforce their meaning. For example, a riddle might begin with the words vinder, feather, wind, and weather, using the alliteration of the V sound to create a musical rhythm. This alliteration not only makes the riddle more pleasing to the ear, but also helps to connect the words thematically, providing clues to the meaning of the riddle. The structure of the riddles also varies widely. Some riddles are short, consisting of a single line or a few lines, while others are longer, with multiple verses. Some riddles are phrased as questions, while others are phrased as statements or descriptions. The structure of the riddle often reflects its purpose and its intended audience. For example, a short, simple riddle might be intended for children, while a longer, more complex riddle might be intended for scholars or religious leaders. The structure also reflects the Norse love of variety, as the riddles range from simple to complex, from serious to playful, and from literal to metaphorical. The study of Norse riddle stones also requires an understanding of the runic alphabet itself. The Futhark, as mentioned earlier, evolved over time, with the elder Futhark being used in the early Viking Age, and the younger Futhark being used in the later Viking Age. The Younger Futhark is a simplified version of the Elder Futhark, with 16 characters instead of 24. This simplification was likely due to the increasing use of runes for everyday communication, as well as the influence of Christianity, which introduced the Latin alphabet. The runes of the Younger Futhark are often more stylized than those of the Elder Futhark, making them more difficult to transcribe and interpret. Additionally, many runic inscriptions use bind runes, which are combinations of 2 or more runes merged into a single character. Bind runes were often used for magical purposes, and they add another layer of complexity to the Riddle stones. One of the most challenging aspects of runic transcription is the fact that runes were often carved in a mirror image or in a reverse direction. This was done for aesthetic reasons, or to make the inscription more difficult to read, adding to the mystery of the riddle. For example, a runic inscription might be carved from right to left instead of left to right, or the runes might be flipped horizontally, making them appear as mirror images. This requires scholars to carefully examine the stone and to use their knowledge of runic writing to determine the correct direction of the inscription. Despite these linguistic and structural challenges, scholars have made significant progress in translating and interpreting Norse riddle stones. By combining linguistic analysis with archaeological evidence, mythological studies, and cultural context, scholars are able to piece together the meaning of even the most cryptic riddles. For example, the riddle on the Workstone, which was once considered unreadable, has been partially translated by scholars, revealing references to Norse mythology, historical events, and even astrological observations. While some parts of the Workstone remain unread, the progress that has been made demonstrates the value of interdisciplinary research in unlocking the secrets of these ancient monuments. The study of Norse riddle stones is also important for understanding the role of writing in Viking society. The Vikings were primarily an oral culture, but they did use runes for writing, albeit in a limited way. Runic inscriptions were often short and practical, recording names, dates, and simple messages. However, the riddle stones are a departure from this practical use of runes, as they are more complex, more artistic, and more symbolic. This suggests that the Norse saw writing not just as a tool for communication, but also as an art form and a way to express their creativity and wisdom. The riddle stones, then, are a testament to the evolution of writing in Viking society and to the Norse ability to use language in new and innovative ways. Another important aspect of Norse riddle stones is their connection to the afterlife. The Norse believed in an afterlife, with Valhalla, the Hall of the Slain, being the most famous destination for warriors who died in battle. However, they also believed that the souls of ordinary people went to other realms, such as Helheim, the realm of the dead, or Folkvanger, the field of the slain. Riddle stones were often associated with burial sites, and many were carved as memorials for the dead. The riddles on these stones may have been intended to guide the soul of the deceased to the afterlife, or to honor their memory by challenging the living to remember them and to reflect on their life. For example, a riddle stone carved on a burial mound might contain a riddle that references the deceased's life or achievements, inviting the living to solve the riddle and to remember the person who had passed away. The connection between riddle stones and the afterlife is also reflected in the use of mythic imagery. Many riddle stones are carved with depictions of Norse gods and goddesses who are associated with the afterlife, such as Odin, who rules over Valhalla, and Hel, who rules over Helheim. These carvings are not just decorative. They are a way to invoke the power of the gods and to ensure that the deceased's soul is guided to the appropriate afterlife realm. The riddles themselves may also contain references to the afterlife, using metaphors to describe the journey of the soul from the mortal world to the divine realm. In addition to their connection to the afterlife, riddle stones were also used to mark sacred sites. The Norse had many sacred places, including groves, springs, and mountains, which were believed to be inhabited by spirits and gods. Riddle stones were often placed at these sites, serving as markers and as offerings to the gods. The riddles on these stones may have been intended to honor the gods and to seek their protection, or to challenge visitors to demonstrate their wisdom and reverence. For example, a riddle stone placed at a sacred spring might contain a riddle about water, inviting visitors to reflect on the importance of the spring and to show respect for the spirits that inhabited it. The study of Norse riddle stones also provides insight into the Norse concept of time. The Vikings had a cyclical view of time, believing that the world was created and destroyed in a series of cycles, with Ragnarök, the end of the world, being followed by a new beginning. This cyclical view of time is reflected in many Norse riddles, which often describe natural phenomena that are cyclical, such as the sun rising and setting, the seasons changing, and the moon waxing and waning. For example, a riddle might describe a light that rises in the east, sets in the west, and returns again the next day, the sun, reflecting the cyclical nature of time. This cyclical view of time also influenced the Norse belief in the afterlife, as they believed that the soul would be reborn after death, continuing the cycle of life and death. The Norse concept of time is also reflected in the way that riddle stones were created and used. Many riddle stones were carved over a period of time, with new runes added to the stone as events occurred, or as new riddles were created. This suggests that the stones were seen as living objects, evolving over time, rather than as static monuments. The riddles themselves may have been updated or changed over time, reflecting the changing beliefs and values of the Norse people. This dynamic nature of the riddle stones is a testament to the Norse ability to adapt and evolve, and to their belief in the cyclical nature of life and culture. In conclusion, Norse riddle stones are a fascinating and complex part of Viking culture, offering a unique window into the minds and lives of the Norse people. They are unread symbols of a civilization that was both fierce and creative, both practical and spiritual, both rooted in the natural world and connected to the divine, despite the challenges of interpreting them. These stones continue to captivate scholars and enthusiasts alike, providing valuable insights into Norse language, mythology, culture, and society. As we continue to study and explore these mysterious monuments, we are not just uncovering the secrets of the past. We are also celebrating the enduring legacy of the Vikings and ensuring that their stories, their riddles, and their wisdom continue to be passed down to future generations. The Norse riddle stones are more than just stones. They are a testament to the power of language, the beauty of mystery, and the universal human desire to seek meaning in the world around us. They are unread, but they are not silent, and their message will continue to resonate for centuries to come. To fully grasp the significance of Norse riddle stones, it is crucial to recognize their place within the broader landscape of Norse runic inscriptions. Runic inscriptions are found on a wide variety of objects, including stones, weapons, jewelry, and tools, and they serve a range of purposes, from commemoration to magic. Riddle stones are a unique subset of these inscriptions, distinguished by their cryptic, question-based content and their focus on wit and wisdom. Unlike other runic inscriptions, which are often straightforward and practical, riddle stones are designed to be enigmatic, to challenge the viewer, and to reveal their meaning only to those who possess the necessary knowledge and insight. The creation of a riddle stone was a labor-intensive process, requiring skill, knowledge, and time. The carver would first select a suitable stone, often choosing a durable material like granite or sandstone that would withstand the elements. They would then smooth the surface of the stone, creating a flat area for the runic inscription and carvings. The runes would be carved using a chisel and hammer, with each rune carefully shaped to ensure that it was legible. The carvings of animals, mythic figures, or other imagery would be added after the runes, often to reinforce the meaning of the riddle. This process required a high level of craftsmanship, and only skilled artisans would have been able to create the intricate runic inscriptions and carvings found on many riddle stones. The time and effort required to create a riddle stone suggest that these monuments were highly valued by the Norse people. They were not just casual creations, but important cultural artifacts that were intended to be seen and appreciated by future generations. This is evident in the fact that many riddle stones are located in prominent places, such as near roads, in villages, or at sacred sites, where they would be visible to passers-by. The placement of the stones also suggests that they were intended to be shared, with the riddles being a form of communal entertainment and education. Another important aspect of riddle stone creation is the choice of runes. The carver would select runes that not only spelled out the riddle, but also had symbolic meaning related to the riddle's content. For example, a riddle about the sun might use the rune Sol, which represents the sun, while a riddle about water might use the rune Lagos, which represents water. This use of symbolic runes adds another layer of meaning to the riddle, connecting the linguistic content of the riddle to the magical and spiritual power of the runes. It also reflects the Norse belief that runes were not just letters, but sacred symbols with the power to influence the world around them. The study of Norse riddle stones also reveals the importance of oral tradition in Viking society. While the riddle stones are written artifacts, they are deeply rooted in the oral tradition of the Norse. Many of the riddles were likely first told orally, passed down from generation to generation, before being carved into stone. This oral tradition would have allowed the riddles to evolve over time, with different versions of the same riddle being told in different regions or by different people. The act of carving the riddle into stone was a way to preserve this oral tradition, ensuring that the riddle would be remembered and passed down for future generations. The connection between oral tradition and riddle stones is also reflected in the way that the riddles are structured. Many Norse riddles are designed to be spoken aloud, with a rhythmic pattern and alliteration that makes them easy to remember and recite. This oral quality is evident in the runic inscriptions, which often have a musical rhythm that is lost when the riddle is translated into modern language. By carving the riddle into stone, the Norse were able to preserve not just the words of the riddle, but also its oral rhythm and musicality. One of the most interesting aspects of Norse riddle stones is their ability to transcend time and culture. While the Norse civilization has long since passed, the riddles on the stones continue to captivate people today, inviting us to solve them and to connect with the past. This enduring appeal is due in part to the universal nature of the riddles, which often deal with themes that are still relevant today: nature, life, death, and the search for meaning. The riddles also appeal to our innate curiosity and love of puzzles, challenging us to use our wit and wisdom to uncover their secrets